Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Thursday, March 12th, 2026, and welcome back to another look at the radio ratings for the month of January from markets across the country. And today we're going to be focusing on markets 9 through 12, including Philadelphia, Boston, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Seattle. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with more of the January 2026 radio ratings from across the country. We're going to start this video off with market number 9, which is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And sitting atop the Philly ratings for January is Sports Radio 94 WIP, which is the flagship station of the Eagles and the Phillies. This station made a major jump, jumping from a 5.5 during the holiday season of 2025 up to a 8.5 for January, and taking over the lead in the market. Their cumulative audience is 610,300. Coming in at number 2 is Beasley Broadcast Group's rock station 93.3 WMMR, which also saw a bit of a big jump, going from 5.9 to 7.1 with a cumulative audience of 631,300. Coming in third place is Odyssey's all-news station, KYW News Radio 1060 and on 103.9 WPHI FM. Like its sisters at Sports Radio 94 WIP, KYW saw a 3-point increase from 3.6 to 6.6 and a cumulative audience of 546,500. Taking the number 4 spot is Beasley Broadcast Group Classic Rock Station 102.9 WMGK, rising from 5.9 to 6.6 with a cumulative audience of 733,400. At number 5, you have iHeartRadio's adult R&B station 105.3 WDAS FM, rising from a 5.3 to a 5.7 with a cumulative audience of 507,600. Jason and Ryan are in the house. What's up, y'all? At number 6 is Odyssey's adult contemporary station B101.1 WBB, which had a very good turnout playing Christmas music during the holidays. But now that they're back into their original, or their regular rather, adult contemporary format, they fell from a 17.0, which I think is a record for the station, down to a 5.4. with a cumulative audience of 1,028,800, which makes it the highest cumulative audience of any radio station in Philadelphia. So they will take the number 6 spot. Coming in at number 7 is the local NPR news station in Philadelphia, WHYY NPR, which jumps from 3.9 to 5.2 with a cumulative audience of 364,400. And then at number 8 is the local K-Love station in Philly, 106.9 WKVP, which saw a modest increase from a 4.6 to a 4.7. They have a cumulative audience of 309,800. Taking the number 9 spot is Beasley Broadcast Group Country Station 92.5 WXTU, which rises from a 3.8 to a 4.4 with a cumulative audience of 437,600. Rounding out the top 10 is Beasley Broadcast Group Adult Hit Station 95.7 Ben FM, which is WBEN FM. They jumped nearly a point up from 2.7 to 3.6 with a cumulative audience of 672,400, and that will place them into the top 10. At number 11, is University of Pennsylvania's adult album alternative station 88.5 WXPN. Slight increase from a 3.3 to 3.4. Cumulative audience of 257,100. In 12th place is Odyssey's classic hits station Big 98.1 WOGL, rising half a point from 2.8 to 3.3, with a cumulative audience of 643,600. Taking the number 13 spot is Radio's top 40 station Q102 WIOQ, inching up from 2.8 to 2.9 with a cumulative audience of 499,200. Tied for 14th place, you have Odyssey's conservative talk station Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, rising from a 1.7 to a 2.7 with a cumulative audience of 76,600, and that ties down with Urban One's R&B oldies station Classics 1079 WPPZ, which also moved up from 2.5 to 2.7 with a cumulative audience of 279,700, and both stations are tied for 14th place. Coming in at number 16 is iHeartRadio hip-hop station Power 99 WUSL, taking a slight drop from 2.8 to 2.6 with a cumulative audience of 391,400. At number 17 is its sister alternative rock station Alt 1045 WRFF, steady at a 2.2. They have a cumulative audience of 398,800. This ties them for 17th with Urban One's adult R&B station 100.3 WRNB, which went up from 2.0 to 2.2. Cumulative audience of 301,600. So those two stations are tied for 17th place. In 19th place is Temple University's classical and jazz station WRTI 90.1 FM, rising from 1.5 to 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 130,700. This ties them with Odyssey's Hot AC station, the new 96.5 WTDY, also inching up from 1.7 to 1.8. Cumulative audience of 435,200. Next up is Beasley Broadcast Group Sports Station 97.5 The Fanatic WPEN, which is the Sixers and Flyers flagship station. They're up from 1.3 to 1.6 with a cumulative audience of 255,400. And then that's followed by iHeartRadio's Spanish CHR station Rumba 106.1 WUMR, inching up from 1.3 to 1.4, and a cumulative audience of 228,600. Next up is Town Square Media's Talk and Classic Hits station, New Jersey 1015 WKXW out of Trenton. They're up from a 0.9 to a 1.0 with a cumulative audience of 87,900. Ranked just ahead of its sister top 40 station, 94.5 WPST, which is steady at a 0.9, and a cumulative audience of 209,500. That's another Trenton-based station. Next up is Forever Media's top 40 station, 93.7 WSTW out of Wilmington, Delaware. They're up from 0.8 to 0.9 with a cumulative audience of 199,900. Then that's followed by the online stream of New Jersey 1015, which went up from 0.1 to 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 8,600. And then Town Square Media's Hot AC, Sojo 104.9 WSJO is steady at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 27,500. And then the local Air One station in Philadelphia, which is 89.5 WYPA, licensed across the Delaware River in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They're down from a 0.2 to a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 12,300. Sorry about that. Okay, not registering in the Philadelphia books for January are the online streams of KYW News Radio 1060 and 103.9, Sports Radio 94 WIP, which during the holidays posted a 1.9 share, and Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, which posted a 0.4 share. By the way, KYW had a 1.3 share during the holiday books. All of these online streams from Odyssey did not register. Also not registering is Forever Media Country Station 103.7 and 96.9 WXCY out of Havre de Grace, Maryland. They had a cumulative audience of 22,200. All right, that's the Philadelphia market. Now let's move on to market number 10, which is Boston, Massachusetts. All right, and leading the way in Beantown is Beasley Broadcast Group Sports Station 98.5 The Sports Hub, WBZ-FM. This is the flagship station of the Boston Bruins, the Boston Celtics, the New England Patriots, and the local MLS team in the Boston area, the New England Revolution. They saw a 1-point jump from a 6.3 to a 7.6, with a cumulative audience of 565,000, firmly taking the number one spot in the Boston ratings. Coming in at number 2 is Odyssey's adult contemporary station Magic 106.7 WMJX, which during the time they were playing Christmas music, they had a double-digit share of the market. They were at 10.3 in December, and during the holidays, that jumped to a 13.5. Now that they're back playing adult contemporary, they fell back to a 6.2 with a cumulative audience of 779,800. In third place is Beasley Broadcast Group Classic Hits Station 105.7 WROR, jumping from 4.6 to 5.5, cumulative audience of 593,500. In fourth place is iHeartRadio Top 40 station KISS 108 WXKS-FM, rising from 4.5 to 5.1 with a cumulative audience of 595,200. In fifth place is another iHeartRadio station, their news talker, WBZ AM News Radio 1030, inching up from 4.8 to 5.0. Cumulative audience of 332,300, which places WBZ AM in fifth place. At number 6 is Odyssey Sports Station, Sports Radio 93.7 WEEI FM, which is the Boston Red Sox flagship. They're up from 4.7 to 4.8 with a cumulative audience of 355,400. Taking the number 7 spot is Boston University's public news and talk station 90.9 WBUR, which is up from 4.0 to 4.5. Cumulative audience of 297,700. In 8th place is Odyssey's Hot AC station Mix 104.1. It's listed as WWBX-FM, but it's technically now known as WBMX-FM. They're down from 4.7 to 4.5 with a cumulative audience of 453,400. And this will tie WBUR for 7th place. Coming in at number 9 is Beasley Media Group's country station, Country 102.5 WKLB FM, rising from 3.8 to 4.0, cumulative audience of 347,000. And then rounding out the top 10 is Odyssey's adult hit station, Big 103, which is WBGB, rising from 3.6 to 3.8, and a cumulative audience of 525,000. And this will tie them with 2 other stations in the market, including Northeast Broadcasting's adult album alternative station, 92.5 The River WXRV, which rose from a 3.4 to a 3.8, and a cumulative audience of 361,400. As well as iHeartRadio's classic rock station, 100.7 WZLX, which is down from 4.0 to 3.8, cumulative audience of 471,400. All 3 stations are tied for 10th place. In 13th place is iHeartRadio's news talk station, WRKO AM 680, which jumped from a 2.4 to a 3.6, taking the number 13 spot in Boston, with a cumulative audience of 118,300. In 14th place, you have WGBH Educational Foundation's public news and talk station, 89.7 WGBH FM, which is the local NPR news station in Boston. They're up from 3.2 to 3.5 with a cumulative audience of 258,000. Their sister classical station, CRB Classical 99.5 WCRB FM, is down from 3.5 to 3.3, placing 15th, with a cumulative audience of 220,200. That's followed by Beasley Broadcast Group's Rhythmic AC station, Hot 96.9 WBQT, which jumps from 2.3 to 2.6, and a cumulative audience of 424,800. Next up is iHeartRadio's hip-hop station, Jammin' 94.5 WJMN FM, steady at a 2.0. Cumulative audience of 339,100. Its sister country station, 101.7 The Bull, WBWL FM, is up from 1.2 to 1.4, with a cumulative audience of 214,800. Next is Emerson College Eclectic and Adult Album Alternative Station, 88.9 WERS, which drops from a 1.4 to a 1.3. Cumulative audience of 203,400. Then it's iHeartRadio's Spanish contemporary station, Rumba 97.7 WZRM, falling from a 1.4 to a 1.1. Cumulative audience of 136,100. That's followed by Beasley Broadcast Group's business news station, Bloomberg 92.9 WBOS FM, which is steady at a 1.0. Cumulative audience of 109,700. Nueva Network's Spanish contemporary station, Cuanda Boston, or WCCM AM, is steady at 0.8. Cumulative audience of 40,800. Next is the local K-Love station in Beantown, 107.3 WKVB, which is steady at a 0.6 with a cumulative audience of 79,400. Beasley Media Group classic rock station, Rock 92.9 HD2, Heard technically on WRCA 1330 AM and on WBOS FM's HD2, is steady at a 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 53,900. Next is Conservative Talker, Talk 1200 WXKS AM from iHeartMedia, up from 0.3 to 0.4. Cumulative audience of 23,900. L&J Media's oldies station, 1510 WMEX AM, registers at a 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 14,900. Next up is another K-Love station, 104.9 WNKC, which is up from 0.2 to 0.3. Cumulative audience of 34,100. Next up is Odyssey's Channel Q, which is an LGBTQ plus aimed top 40 dance and talk station heard on WBGBHD2. They register at a 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 9,500. Next is WCAI FM, which is on Martha's Vineyard. This is owned by the WGBH Educational Foundation and features a news talk format. They're steady at a 0.1. Cumulative audience of 8,200. Not registering in the Boston books for January include the online stream of Odyssey's Big 103, as well as ESPN WEEI AM 850, which is also an Odyssey station, as well as the rock format of WAAF, which is heard on WBMX HD2 data and register. WEEI AM had a cumulative audience of 8,000, while WAAF had a cumulative audience of 4,500. Okay, that is the Boston radio market. Next up is market number 11. That is the Miami-Fort Lauderdale radio market. And taking a look at the South Florida ratings, leading the way is Cox Media Group's soft adult contemporary station Easy 93.1 WFEZ, sliding up from a 7.4 to a 7.5 and a cumulative audience of 746,900. In second place is Cox Media Group's sister adult R&B station Hot 105 WHQT, which also inched up from 6.6 to 6.7 to take the number 2 spot. Cumulative audience of 448,500. In third place is Televisa Univision's Spanish contemporary station Amor 107.5 WAMR. 1 point jump for them from 5.0 to 6.0. Cumulative audience of 450,000. At number 4, you have Odyssey's classic hits station 102.7 The Beach, WMXJ, jumping from 4.6 to 5.4 with a cumulative audience of 597,200. In fifth place is Spanish Broadcasting System's salsa and tropical station 92.3 WCMQ, rising from a 4.4 to a 5.0. Cumulative audience of 455,800. Sitting at number 6 is Odyssey's adult contemporary station 101.5 Light FM WLYF, dropping from a 5.6 to a 4.9. Cumulative audience of 746,800. At number 7 is iHeartRadio's bilingual adult contemporary station Magic 93.9 WMIA FM, dropping from 4.8 to 4.2, cumulative audience of 653,000. At number 8 is the local NPR news station for South Florida, 91.3 WLRN, owned by the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. They're up from 3.7 to 4.0 with a cumulative audience of 230,300. Now, this is the main station. They have a second station that broadcasts to Key West on 91.5. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ninth place is Spanish Broadcasting System's Spanish Tropical Station, El Zol 106.7 WXDJ. Sliding up from 3.9 to 4.0, cumulative audience of 433,000. Rounding out the top 10 is Cox Media Group's Rhythmic High AC station, Hits 97.3 WFLC, also inching up from 3.6 to 3.7 with a cumulative audience of 474,300. Coming in at number 11 is iHeartRadio's classic rock station, Big 105.9 WBGG FM. This is the flagship station of the Miami Dolphins. In fact, this is the FM flagship station of the Miami Dolphins. They're up from 3.1 to 3.5 with a cumulative audience of 437,400. Coming in at number 12 is Actualidad Media's Spanish news and talk station, Actualidad 1040 WURN AM, jumping from 2.6 to 3.4 and a cumulative audience of 169,000, placing them 12th. At number 13 is iHeartMedia's Spanish contemporary station through 94.9 WZTU, falling from a 3.7 to a 3.3 with a cumulative audience of 381,500. In 14th place is their sister top 40 station, Y100, which is WHYI FM, jumping from 2.8 to 3.1, cumulative audience of 511,900. Coming in at number 15 is Cox Media Group's hip-hop station, 99 Jams, WEDR, jumping from a 3.3 to a 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 365,400. This will tie them with Odyssey Country Station, Kiss Country 99.9 WKIS, which drops from a 3.5 to a 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 317,300. So these two stations are at 15th place. And 17th is Odyssey's classic hip-hop station, Power 96, POW, which fell from 3.3 to a 2.8, and a cumulative audience of 447,600. So that is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17th place. In 18th, you have iHeartRadio's hip-hop station and Power 99 competitor 103.5 The Beat WMIB-FM, which slipped from a 2.7 to a 2.6. Cumulative audience of 299,700. That's followed by Spanish Broadcasting System's Spanish hip-hop station, Ritmo 95.7 WRMA, rising up from 2.2 to 2.5. Cumulative audience of 293,900. The local K-Love station for the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area is 89.7 WMLV, which falls from a 2.5 to a 2.1, and a cumulative audience of 186,800. Next is Televisa Univision's Spanish contemporary station, Mix 98.3 WRTO, which falls from a 1.8 to a 1.4, and a cumulative audience of 231,000. That's then followed by iHeartRadio's news and talk station, News Radio 610 WIOD, which is steady at a 1.2. They have a cumulative audience of 114,800. And then you have Odyssey Sports Station 104.3 WQAM FM, which is also heard on WQAM 560 AM. They slipped from a 1.2 to a 1.1 with a cumulative audience of 154,100. Next up is Hubbard Broadcasting's Hot AC Station 97.9 WRMF out of West Palm Beach. They're steady at a 1.1, which ties them with WQAM, and they have a audience of 183,200. The online stream of Spanish Broadcasting Systems El Zol 106.7 jumps from a 0.8 to a 0.9, with a cumulative audience of 47,700. That ties them with Enco Media's Dance Station, Revolution 93.5 WZFL, which is heard all over South Florida, primarily on WZFL, but also on WBGF in the West Palm Beach area, and on the HD2 channel of WMIA in Miami. Revolution 93.5 fell from a 1.2 to a 0.9 with a cumulative audience of 151,800. Next is Hope Media Group's Spanish Christian AC Vida Unida 90.9 WLFE, which is steady at a 0.6, cumulative audience of 32,200. Spanish Broadcasting Systems Salsa and Tropical Station Zeta 92.3. This is the online stream of that station. They're up from 0.3 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 22,100. Next up is Radio Mambi 710 WAQI. This is a Spanish news and talk station from the Latino Media Network. They slipped from a 0.6 down to a 0.4 and a cumulative audience of 39,500. That's followed by Hope Media Group's Christian AC station 88.1 AFM WAYF, which is steady at a 0.4, cumulative audience of 49,100. That also ties them with Fox Sports 940 WINZ from iHeartMedia. This is the flagship station of the Miami Marlins and the AM flagship of the Miami Dolphins. They're down from 0.5 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 37,600. And then Odyssey's Spanish conservative talk station Radio Libre 790 WAXY is up from 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 36,000. That is then followed by Bascom Media Foundation's jazz station 88.9 WDNA, known on air as Sirius Jazz. They're steady at a 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 39,300. Next is a couple covered broadcasting stations out of West Palm Beach. Sunny 107.9, which here's a classic hits format, is down from a 0.5 to a 0.2 and a cumulative audience of 52,600. Sunny 107.9, by the way, is WEAT FM. Its sister sports station, Fox Sports 640 WMEN, is steady at a 0.2 and a cumulative audience of 17,500. Odyssey's LGBTQ plus talk, dance, and EDM station, Channel U, heard on WPOWHD3, is steady at a 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 13,100. And then iHeartRadio's version, which is Pride Radio, heard on WBGG-HD3, is steady at a 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 17,600. The total, the Totally 80s channel, heard on Cox Media Group's WFLC HD2, is steady at a 0.1, with a cumulative audience of 24,700. Hubbard Broadcasting's adult R&B station X102.3 WMBX is also steady at a 0.1, with a cumulative audience of 32,200. This is a West Palm Beach station. That's followed by iHeartMedia's classic hip-hop station, Throwback 105.5, heard on WMIB-FM HD3. They're steady at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 32,200. And then their sister Spanish tropical station, La Mezcla, 94.9, heard on WZTU HD2, drops from a 0.2 to a 0.1, and a cumulative audience of 25,300. Not registering in Miami, Fort Lauderdale for January are the online streams of Odyssey stations, Radio Libre 790, but Radio Insight has them listed as 790 the ticket, and their classic hit station 102.7 The Beach. Neither have registered. Also, West Palm Beach-based news talk station 850 WFTL from Hubbard Broadcasting didn't register in Miami either, but they do have a cumulative audience of 11,800. The classical format of WLRN Classical, heard on WLRN HD2, also didn't register. They had a cumulative audience of 10,800. And iHeart Country Station 104.7 The Bull, heard on WMIA-FM HD3, also didn't register, but had a cumulative audience of 19,200. Okay, we're going to wrap this up now with the number 12 market in the country, which is Seattle-Tacoma, Washington. All right, here we go. And leading the way up in Seattle is University of Washington's KUOW 94.9, which is the local NPR news station in Seattle. All right. They're up from a 9.4 to a 9.7 as they continue their dominance over the Pacific Northwest. Their cumulative audience is 346,300. In second place is Christa Ministries Christa Ministries Christian Adult Contemporary Station, Spirit 105.3 KCMS. They took a drop though, falling from 7.0 to 5.7, and a cumulative audience of 274,200, which puts them 4 points behind KUOW for the market lead. Coming in third place, you have iHeartRadio's classic hits station 95.7 The Jet, KJEB, jumping from a 4.1 to a 5.5, with a cumulative audience of 572,900. In fourth place is Hubbard Broadcasting's adult contemporary station, Warm 106.9 KRWM FM, which registered 11.1 during the holidays playing Christmas music. Now back to regular programming, they fell to a 5.3, with a cumulative audience of 648,000. Taking the number 5 spot is Bonneville Sports Station 710 Seattle Sports, which is KIRO-AM. Jumping from a 3.8 to a 5.1 and a cumulative audience of 309,900. Now this is the flagship station of the newly crowned Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, as well as the flagship station of the Seattle Mariners. Coming in at number 6 is Odyssey Rock Station, 99.9 The Rock, which went from a 5.2 down to a 5.0. That's the cumulative audience of 447,200. 7th place is Bonneville's News and Talk Station, Cairo News Radio 97.3 KIRO FM. Moving from a 3.7 up to a 4.8 and a cumulative audience of 274,500. Now this station also number 8 is Odyssey Country Station, The Wolf KKWF, jumping more than a point from 3.3 to 4.5. Cumulative audience of 314,600. At number 9 is Adult Album Alternative Station KEXP 90.3, owned by the Friends of KEXP, also seeing more than a 1-point rise from 3.2 to 4.3. They have a cumulative audience of 165,200. And that puts them in 9th place. Rounding out the top 10 is Odyssey's Alternative Rocker 107.7 The End, KNDD-FM, steady at a 3.8. Cumulative audience of 508,300. Coming in at number 11 is iHeartRadio's Classic Rock Station 102.5 KZOK, which is up from 3.0 to 3.6. They have a cumulative audience of 495,400. In 12th place is Lotus Communications all-news station, Northwest News Radio, heard in the immediate Seattle area on KNWN 1000 AM and on FM at 97.7 KNWN FM. And it's also being simulcast on the second HD sub-channel of KPLZ. Northwest News Radio rose from a 3.2 to a 3.4 with a cumulative audience of 191,100. Taking the number 13 spot is Hubbard Broadcasting's Top 40 station, Movin' 92.5 KQMV, which falls from a 3.5 to a 3.2 and a cumulative audience of 455,400. Their rival top 40 station, which is iHeartMedia's Hits 106, which during the Seahawks Super Bowl run was known as Hawks 106.1, that's KDS. They're down from 3.2 to 3.1, a cumulative audience of 470,000. This puts them in a tie for 14th place with Classic Radio's Classical King FM 98.1 KING FM, which fell from 3.9 to a 3.1, and a cumulative audience of 213,800 is tied in 14th place with Hits 106.1. Lotus Communications Classic Country Station 101.5 Hank FM KPLZ is up from 2.5 to 2.7. Cumulative audience of 205,800. Tying them with Hubbard Country Station 98.9 The Bull KPNW, which is up from 2.2 to 2.7. A cumulative audience of 176,300. Both stations are tied for 15th. In fact, 16th. Sorry about that. 18th place is iHeartRadio's Adult Hit Station, Jack FM, KJAQ, steady at 2.4, cumulative audience of 458,000. Tying them with jazz and news station 88.5 KNKX, which is also steady at 2.4, and a cumulative audience of 168,700. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So both stations are tied for 18th. Rounding out the top 20 is Odyssey's Hot AC station, Emma 94.1 KSWD, which is up from 1.8 to 2.3. Cumulative audience of 286,000. And then further down, you have Odyssey's classic hip hop station, Hot 103.7 KHT, which holds steady at 1.9. Cumulative audience 354,500. That's followed by Bonneville conservative talk station, Seattle Red 770 AM KTTH, jumping from a 1.2 to a 1.8. Cumulative audience of 64,600. Next is iHeartRadio Sports Station, Sports Radio 93.3 KJR FM, which is the flagship station of the Seattle Kraken. They're up from 1.3 to 1.7 with a cumulative audience of 192,400. Next up, Lotus Communications Conservative Talker, Talk Radio 570 KVI, up to a 1.5, cumulative audience of 65,700. The local K-Love station in Seattle, 104.5 KLSW, is down from 1.6 to 1.2, cumulative audience of 115,700. iHeartRadio Sports Station, Sports Radio 950 KJR AM, is up from 0.7 to 1.1, cumulative audience of 105,100. Dance music station C89.5 KNHC from Seattle Public Schools is down from 1.1 to 1.0 with a cumulative audience of 104,800. Air One affiliate 88.1 KWAO is down from 0.5 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 71,400. That's followed by Christa Ministries Christian AC station, Praise 106.5 KWPZ. They're down from 0.5 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 23,000. Classic Radio's Evergreen channel plays live classical music on IGFM is steady at 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 2,800. In fact, this is the online stream of the Evergreen channel. Hubbard Broadcasting's oldies station, AM 880 KIXI, is steady at a 0.1. Cumulative audience of 20,600. iHeartRadio's conservative talk station, 1090 The Patriot, KPTR, is also steady at a 0.1. Cumulative audience of 19,600. And then you have two stations from Washington State University that also broadcast in the Seattle area, including Public News and Talk Station, NWPB 88.9 KSWS, which is steady at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 9,600, and its classical station, NWPB Classical 90.9 KVTI, also steady at a 0.1, cumulative audience of 13,600. All right. Not registering in the Seattle-Tacoma books for January includes iHeartRadio's Rhythmic CHR, which, let me rephrase that. Not registering in the Seattle-Tacoma books for January includes iHeartRadio's Pride Radio, which is an LGBTQ top 40 and dance music station, heard on KBKS HD2 with a cumulative audience of 6,300. Their alternative rock station, Alt 96.5, heard on KJAQ HD2 with a cumulative audience of 9,900. Also, the online stream of Odyssey Country Station 100.7 The Wolf with a cumulative audience of 0. And Hubbard's Warm 106.9 Christmas, which plays 24/7 Christmas music on KRWM FM HD2. They have a cumulative audience of 2,500. And that's going to do it for the January 2026 radio ratings for Philadelphia, Boston, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Seattle-Tacoma. In our next installment, we'll look at markets 13 through 16, which includes Phoenix, Arizona, which is my home market, Detroit, Michigan, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, and Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Florida. So join me next time for that. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.